We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Our guest this morning, elder law attorney Chris Johnson, taking your phone calls if you'd like to join in the conversation. He works with Tim Takacs and Barbara McGinnis. Elder law questions, it says on the screen, 737-7587. The difference and whether you need both or one or the other on power of attorney. That's a real common thing that you hear more and more these days. Doesn't mean your parents or whoever you're doing this for can no longer attend to their affairs where they need a conservatorship. Right. But, and I've had to do this with my folks, to get a power of attorney basically over their financials. And we're trying to expand that as well, maybe to medical, as our next step on that. How do you decide on power of attorney? With me, we just knew they needed some extra help, and some of the things we were attending to, we needed that power to be able to do it without constantly getting them on the phone and having them do things.
So those are great questions. So the first thing is you want them two separate documents. You want your general financial power of attorney and you want your healthcare power of attorney, 1 and 2. I always say the most important decision any client will make with their power of attorney is the person that they choose to put in that authority position, because what they are doing is they are transferring their rights. They obviously have their rights, but they're allowing this person to act on their behalf as well. So that person, especially for the financial power of attorney, I like to joke, they need to have integrity and they need to be good at math. I mean, those are the first 2 minimum requirements.
I've got one of those.
There you go.
Integrity. I'm not so good at math. But you're right.
You can work on it.
Like, the real key there is power of attorney. They're not giving it up.
No, they're not. They're sharing it.
And I like the way you said that.
And that's critical. And the power of attorney does not become the boss of you. I get that question all the time, and it kind of becomes a joke when we have kids and parents in our office, and they'll say, now, this doesn't make you in charge. This allows you to help mom and dad, and mom or dad will quip in real quick, like, that's right, I'm still the boss around here. And that's important to know. I think for a lot of people, because it's such an important document, and because, as we were talking about conservatorships earlier, it avoids the conservatorship because you have set up and you have planned for that contingency that maybe mom or dad has lost their capacity to function. You have power of attorney. You have authority to make those decisions for them. And what you have done is now you have saved yourself what can be a very arduous and sometimes ugly court battle for on occasion, and we don't want to have that, and the simple document that takes care of that. So I want to make sure that the power of attorney has all the authority under the sun that they need to have, because you don't want to run into a spot where you wish you had granted them this authority and it didn't happen. I want to make sure that I have successor powers of attorney, so I want to, if something happens to my power of attorney, if something happened to you, I'd want to have a backup. You should always have a backup plan in all of your estate planning. You don't know what life is going to bring to you. I tell clients every day, we don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the future is going to bring, and tomorrow is never promised. What I want to know is, no matter what happens, we have a plan. We have something that we can adjust to if this contingency arises. And then I think the third thing on the power of attorney is, on financial powers of attorney, you can make them springing, which means it's just a piece of paper until you lose capacity, and then it becomes in force. For some people, that can be the right type of document. For most people, I encourage them to have a power of attorney that's in force immediately, so at the time they need to use it, there's no confusion, and they're not scrambling trying to get a doctor's letter saying, hey, this person no longer has capacity. That's a hard letter to get, and it's a hard thing to explain to an independent doctor, and just trying to get doctors time. They're so busy these days. They have so much on their plates. That's a difficult thing. And remember, when you're trying to do that, one of your most precious loved ones is incapacitated at that point, which means you're not having your best day either. You don't need any hurdles at that moment in your life. You need to have those documents in effect immediately.
Boy. All right, covering all these, and I wonder if some people sitting listening understand when you say you always need to have a backup plan and all this. And in the minds of some, and even me as I sit here, I think, well, okay, that's well and good for people that have the resources and the means. And I know you're going to tell me it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can always have a plan. But is it not more difficult, you know, and maybe the types of folks who don't have the resources even to hire a firm as fine as yours, to come up with a backup plan when you say, when the money goes, or when clearly someone needs power of attorney, but you don't really have the means? How does someone like that go about a backup plan if they really are strapped?
It is tough.
Yes, I mean, and some, maybe the answer for some is, well, it's just not going to happen. Does that just mean the loved one sits there and dies in a house?
No, and that's not going to happen. There are always resources available, and what you need to do is you need to seek out the people who know where those resources are. And so we will have, on occasion, it doesn't happen often, but we'll have someone come in that there just isn't a lot for a myriad of reasons, not necessarily financial, but just a myriad of reasons. Maybe there isn't something that we can do for them. Maybe their problem doesn't revolve around elder law like they thought it did. People come in and think their problem is one thing, and sometimes it's another. And what we do, though, is we know the resources, and we certainly know the local bar and the other attorneys around, and we'll point them in the right direction. Say, this is the person you need to see. You don't have an estate planning question. Maybe you have a real estate question. Maybe they have a title issue with their property and they're trying to work that into their estate plan and didn't realize it. For those that don't have the resources, what I always say is, remember, there are all these little communities. There are all these little communities in our country. We deal with people who have special needs children. That's another type of trust planning, is special needs trust, and making sure children are taken care of. Special needs children, I think parents' scariest thing is what happens after I'm gone. I can't imagine. And so it's a very sometimes isolating world, because that child oftentimes takes a lot of your time, and rightfully so. They need more love, they need more attention, they need more care, and so your world becomes much smaller. And so it can sometimes feel isolating, but there are other people out there like you, and there are resources and support groups, and you seek those people out and you find them and you get with them and you have conversations, you become friends with them, and you learn, okay, this is my little niche in the world and there are others like me. I want to find those other people like me and get all the information. And almost every county, there's oftentimes some type of legal aid program that can get at least basic documents done for you. And so there's a legal aid society that used to be down here on Dietrich, and I know it's since moved, but I know they're still in existence. And those types of organizations, I mean, they do God's work, and they are taking care of those people that are sometimes underserved and underrepresented, and those resources are out there. A lot of times in our society, it's not that the resource isn't available, it's connecting the individual with the right resource.
Knowing where to go and
knowing
where
to go.
I'm glad you just said that. I wanted to share that with some folks, because I know some are saying, Nick, it's great you have Chris on, and what I'm hearing here I'd like, but our estate is not. You hear estate and you think something palatial, and some estates are like mine, they're quite minuscule, but still there's ways to manage them. So let's go to Joe. Joe, good morning. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, Nick.
Hey.
This might be backing up just a little bit on listening to the program, but on court-appointed conservators, Tennessee has not the greatest record on keeping look on what these conservators are doing with people's money when they don't have a next of kin, or don't have a trust, or don't have a will.
Right.
So I would caution anyone that if a court appoints a conservator, to be, hopefully somebody along the line will keep a check on what these conservators are doing with these people's money, because there's been several cases in Tennessee, especially, that some of these conservators have took these people's money and just spent it.
Yeah. Well, he's right. You've seen stories, Joe, right? We've done stories on those cases. Okay, I think maybe he hung up there, but I mean, his point's good, and we touched on that. So how does someone know when they're choosing the trustee, or if it's court assigned, or is there a list of people? Obviously, as you said, it could be a family member. You could be someone in a law firm, right?
So, and there were a couple one particular high-profile case. It was in the news, and it was covered rather extensively, and it was a shame. And it was a shame because someone did manage the assets very poorly, and the problem is it does exactly what Joe just called in to ask about. Is it casts a shadow on everyone, and like Joe said, Joe has a certain distrust now of the process, and frankly, I understand why. When you read those articles, it's hard to swallow some of the behavior and some of the actions that you saw. I would emphasize that there's a reason it was news. It was very much the exception.
That's right.
It was not the rule. There are literally hundreds and thousands of people out there doing the right thing, managing their parents or managing managing very close friends in the capacity of conservatorship, doing the right thing every single day. And the courts are reviewing these things every single day. And the courts they have a lot on their docket, but I know that they are doing their very best every single day to make sure these things are managed. If you are a family member and you feel as though something is going wrong and you feel as though, I think this conservator is taking advantage, you have choices that you can make. You can go see an attorney, and maybe you want to petition for a change of conservatorship. Maybe you want to reach out to the conservator and say, I would like to take a look at the books, and I'm concerned about the management. They have to file everything with the court. It's done with court oversight. And I would, and again, Joe, I understand that, and I understand your feelings on it, and all of us in the legal profession, it was tough. They were tough articles to read.
Sure.
But they are very much the exception, and I wouldn't throw out the baby with the bathwater, if you will. One bad apple, I know we always say, can spoil the bunch, and from a perception standpoint it can, but in reality, this, for people who don't have capacity and can't take care of themselves, and they don't have power of attorney, no one has that power of attorney for them, the conservatorship is the right thing, and all it requires is supervision, and just keep an eye on things and ask questions. There's nothing wrong in this world with asking questions.
On that note, we will take a break, and we do have some questions waiting for you when we come back. Deborah, Shirley, stay where you are. We will take a break, come back. The number 737-758-87. Any questions for Chris Johnson here on Elder Law? Jump in. Final segment right after this.